Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. If you've been following fashion trends over the past few years, you've probably noticed something pretty interesting. The comeback of vintage styles. From the 1920s to the 1990s, fashion has come full circle, with old-school trends making their way back into our closets. Today, we're diving into some of the most iconic vintage fashion trends that have made a major return in recent years. Whether you love the elegance of the past or just can't resist a good retro look, vintage fashion comebacks are here to stay. Number 1. The Roaring Twenties. Flapper dresses and Art Deco glam. Let's kick things off with the iconic Roaring Twenties. The 1920s were all about glamour, decadence, and liberation, and one of the most enduring symbols of that era is the flapper dress. These dresses were all about loose silhouettes, dropped waistlines, and lots of sparkle. Fast forward to today, and you'll see these dresses making a huge comeback in everything from cocktail parties to wedding receptions. Designers are embracing the boldness of Art Deco prints and the luxurious feel of beaded fabrics, making vintage flapper dresses a staple for modern-day glam. Whether it's the fringe, the sequins, or the overall flapper vibe, this look has found a way back into our wardrobes, and we're loving it. And who can forget the iconic bob hairstyle? That's another 1920s trend that's resurfacing. Today's modern bob is a nod to those bold and liberated women of the jazz age. Number 2. The 1950s. Rockabilly and retro pinup style. Next up, let's talk about the fabulous 1950s, a time of rockabilly, leather jackets, and killer pinup style. From classic swing dresses to the iconic cat-eye makeup, the 50s are making waves again, especially for those who love a bit of retro rebellion in their fashion. Today, rockabilly-inspired outfits are being reimagined by modern designers, with leather jackets and high-waisted pants making an appearance in mainstream fashion. But it's the vintage pinup look, those flattering, hourglass-shaped dresses, red lips, and victory rolls, that really defines this comeback. Many modern influencers and fashionistas are embracing this look, blending vintage style with contemporary accessories. The 50s aesthetic is everywhere, from vintage-inspired photo shoots to street style, making this one of the most enduring vintage trends that keeps coming back. Number 3. The 1960s. Mod fashion and miniskirts. Moving on to the 1960s, when fashion was all about breaking the rules. Enter the mod look, a bold, geometric, and youthful style that was all about youthful rebellion. Think miniskirts, bold colors, and graphic patterns. This was the decade that introduced us to the famous mini skirt, which continues to be a major fashion staple today. But it's not just the skirts. The 1960s mod look influenced everything from jackets to accessories, and the influence is still felt in modern-day fashion. Today, designers are revisiting mod styles, taking inspiration from the likes of Twiggy and Jen Trimpton, two of the most famous mod icons. Whether it's the shift dress, bold stripes, or oversized sunglasses, the 60s look is one of the most wearable vintage styles today. It's fun, it's quirky, and it's definitely making a statement in 2024. Number 4. The 1970s. Boho chic and bell-bottoms. Let's fast forward to the 1970s, a decade of bold prints, bell-bottoms, and everything boho chic. The 70s were a time of freedom. Freedom of expression, freedom of style, and freedom of movement. One of the most iconic fashion pieces of the 70s was the bell-bottom pant. Originally worn by sailors, bell-bottoms exploded onto the fashion scene in the 70s and have seen a major resurgence in modern-day fashion, especially in the form of high-waisted flares. The bohemian look, with its flowing fabrics, earthy tones, and layered accessories, is another hallmark of 70s style. The boho chic aesthetic is alive and well today, with celebrities and designers constantly bringing back vintage-inspired pieces like peasant blouses, fringe jackets, and chunky necklaces. In fact, the laid-back, free-spirited vibe of the 70s continues to influence everything from music festivals to streetwear. Number 5. The 1980s, neon and power suits. The 1980s were all about excess, boldness, and expression. Think neon colors, oversized blazers, and power suits. And guess what? It's back. The 80s power suit with broad shoulders and high-waisted trousers is making a huge comeback. Today, we're seeing designers take the 80s silhouette and give it a modern twist. Think tailored blazers paired with sneakers for a chic but comfortable look. Alongside power suits, the 80s also brought us an explosion of neon colors, high-waisted jeans, and athleisure. We're talking about scrunchies, oversized sweatshirts, and everything that screamed fun and youthful rebellion. These items are everywhere now, from street style to runways, as 80s-inspired fashion shows no signs of slowing down. Number 6. The 1990s, grunge and hip-hop influence. And how could we forget the 1990s? From grunge to hip-hop, the 90s gave us some of the most iconic streetwear styles that are still influencing fashion today. Grunge fashion, with its flannel shirts, ripped jeans, and combat boots, is all the rage again. Designers and high street brands have taken the 90s look and turned it into a sleek, polished version of the original style. On the flip side, 90s hip-hop fashion with oversized jackets, baggy pants, and chunky sneakers is having a serious comeback too. Brands like Fubu, Tommy Hilfiger, and Nike, which were huge during the 90s, are making waves again, thanks to a resurgence in streetwear culture. Whether it's the influence of rapper style or the grunge aesthetic, the 90s have firmly planted themselves back in our fashion lexicon. Why vintage fashion is here to stay. Now you might be wondering, why is vintage fashion making such a strong comeback? Well, there are a few reasons. First, vintage fashion is sustainable. More people are turning to secondhand and upcycled clothing as a way to reduce their environmental impact, and what better way to do that than by rocking a 50-year-old trend? Plus, these vintage looks are timeless. Fashion cycles and the classics never really go out of style. And let's not forget the power of nostalgia. Whether it's a resurgence in grunge or a love for the boldness of the 80s, vintage fashion connects us to a certain time in history, evoking memories of how things used to be while adding a fresh, modern twist. Vintage fashion is all about blending the best of the past with the present. It's about mixing those old-school items with modern touches to create a style that's uniquely your own. Whether it's pairing a 70s boho blouse with 2024 streetwear or rocking a vintage leather jacket with a fresh pair of sneakers, the possibilities are endless. And it's not just about looking good. It's about making a statement. Fashion from the past has a way of expressing individuality, creativity, and confidence, which is something we all crave in today's fast-paced world. Another reason vintage fashion has staying power. It's often far better made than many of the fast fashion items we see today. With high-quality materials, attention to detail, and unique designs, vintage pieces tend to last longer, making them not just fashionable, but smart investments. And let's not forget how much fun it is to find something truly one-of-a-kind. Vintage shopping is like treasure hunting, and when you find that perfect piece, whether it's a 60s floral dress or a 90s bomber jacket, you know you've got something special.